Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What's the Word. Today is Thursday, April 8th, 2021. And today, the word comes from Philippians chapter 1, verse 3, which reads, I thank my God in every remembrance of you. Now, with that being said, hopefully the relevance of the scripture will make more sense as the episode concludes. Moving on to scoreboard watching and starting with the Washington Wizards. They were in action on Monday, falling to the Toronto Raptors 103-101. Bradley Beal again didn't play with his hip injury, neither did Daniel Gafford, and Rui Hachimura was out his second straight game with right shoulder soreness. Russell Westbrook led Washington with 23 points on 9 of 25 shooting, including going 1 of 6 from 3, but the 1 3 he did make was a big shot that we'll get to in a moment. He also knocked down all 4 of his free throws. He added his 19th triple-double of the season with 14 rebounds, 11 assists, and only 4 turnovers. As for Davis Bertans, his strong effort continued with 17 points on 5 of 8 shooting from three-point range. And speaking of three-point shooting, Garrison Matthews, he also added 17 points on 5 of 6 shooting from the floor, 4 of 6 from 3. From the center position, Alex Len added 13 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 blocks, but Robin Lopez only added a single point before leaving the game with right quad soreness. Fortunately, that didn't affect him too long, as we'll get to momentarily. Deni Avdija had a pretty good game, a double-double, 12 points, 11 rebounds, 4 of 10 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3. Ish Smith scored 10 points, but the rest of the Wizards players, Raul Neto, Anthony Gill, and Chandler Hutchison, only combined for 8 points on 3 of 22 shooting. Anthony Gill only scored 2 points in 10 minutes of action, but it was a pretty good 10 minutes. He had 6 rebounds, a steal, and a very crucial charge drawn towards the end of the game. The Wizards actually lost the battle in the paint 64-34, but they were firing on all cylinders from three-point range. At least that was the case during the first half, as they shot 9 of 18 before going 3 of 17 after halftime to finish out 34% from distance. The strong shooting early in the game helped Washington build a 19-point lead, but as they went cold from the floor and stacked up 18 turnovers, Toronto went on a run to take the lead with 7 minutes and 3 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Still, the Wizards stayed in the game and retook a 1-point lead off of Russell Westbrook's 3 with 41 seconds remaining. Anthony Gill drew a charge on the other end of the floor, but Raul Neto missed a difficult layup while trying to extend Washington's advantage. Cue Gary Trent Jr., who hit the game-winning 3 at the buzzer, as Neto was trying to draw the offensive foul on the push-off, and you just can't embellish a call at that moment and leave the shooter open. Even though Toronto was only shooting 18% from 3 at that point, you still can't let that happen, as they finished up shooting 21% from 3, and the last one was the dagger. The Wizards were able to turn their fortunes around yesterday as they defeated the Orlando Magic 131-116. In his return from a 5-game injury absence, Bradley Beal dropped 26 points on 11 of 19 shooting, including going 4 of 6 from 3, but he didn't attempt a single free throw. He did, however, add 5 assists and only 2 turnovers in 30 minutes of action. We found out after the game that Bradley Beal was not only dealing with a hip contusion, but as reported by Quentin Mayo, he was dealing with neuralgia paresthetica, which is just a difficult medical term meaning nerve compression. So obviously he didn't want to take too many falls on that hip, which is why he didn't really force his way into the lane. He did take a fall early, which you could see kind of made him smart on that hip a little bit. But I like that he was back to just taking jump shots, and specifically back to shooting well from 3. Obviously that's what he was working on in his absence. He said that it was painful to sit down, so you could tell that he was definitely at work, and he was back to working on his range. Russell Westbrook had his 20th triple-double for the team, dropping 23 points on 8 of 11 shooting, knocking down all 3 of his threes and all 4 of his free throws, 15 assists, 14 rebounds, and 5 turnovers. Deni Avdija probably had his most remarkable game as a rookie. 16 points on 6 of 10 shooting, including going 4 of 7 from 3-point range. Still taking a lot of threes, but at least he made them, and he got to the middle of the lane, knocking down a few, adding 5 rebounds and 2 assists. Davis Bertans, again, just continuing his strong effort out of his rehab. 22 points on 6 of 11 3-point shooting, and he hit all 4 of his free throws. Robin Lopez showed no ill effects of that right quad soreness as he added 19 points, and Rui Hachimura was back, though he only added 9 points on 3 of 9 shooting, but he had 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 steals, so he was still able to affect the game. Bradley Beal returned, and so did the Wizards' offense. The interior game did take a small step back, but that's acceptable when they're so dominant from distance. The squad shot 57% from the floor and 52% from long range, including knocking down 11 of 15 in the first half, good for 73%. The Wizards' ball movement was also as sharp as it's been all season long, as they dished out 35 assists and only turned the ball over 13 times. Washington held a 21-point advantage with 3 minutes and 39 seconds left in the third quarter and allowed Orlando to trim the lead to 4 just under 8 minutes later, but the Wizards were able to close out from there. Next up, the hope to continue their winning streak as they take on the Golden State Warriors in San Francisco on Friday at 10 p.m. As for some transaction news, the Wizards waived guard Jerome Robinson and are expected to bring back big man Jordan Bell on another 10-day contract. And though the fact that the Wizards are moving on from Jerome Robinson isn't all that surprising considering his option was declined for next season, it is surprising that they waited this long to do so, especially considering that they could have opened up a roster spot ahead of the trade deadline. Instead, they bring back center Jordan Bell, and I like the move to bring him back. He is a really good defender in the paint, and he has good positioning. He draws charges often, gets some blocks occasionally, and he offers them another lob threat as the Wizards are still waiting for Daniel Gafford to return to health. As for the Washington Capitals, they were in action on Tuesday, falling to the New York Islanders 1-0. Washington was shut out for the first time all season in a duel of extremely sharp net minding, as Islanders goaltender Semyon Varlamov stopped all 29 shots his former team put on net. Vitek Vanacek, on the other hand, made 38 saves, including this remarkable stop with the paddle of his stick.
They win it cleanly. Here comes Dobson's shot. It's through a maze. Look, they get a second look.
But obviously it was the one he didn't stop that made the difference. With about 7 minutes left in regulation, a clearing attempt by Caps defenseman Zdeno Chara was kept in the zone at the blue line, the puck was flung on net, and New York's Brock Nelson just happened to be in the right place at the right time for the rebound. After matching the Islanders shot for shot in the first 2 periods of the game, New York doubled Washington's output in the final frame, 20-10. Washington finishes up their 5-game road trip with a 2-3 record, but they will be back in home today as they take on the Boston Bruins at 7 p.m. In some more transactional news, the Capitals waived winger Richard Panik in a move that creates just north of $1 million right before Monday's trade deadline. The Capitals are tied up against the NHL's salary cap, so the move likely signals that they will be looking for reinforcements at the trade deadline. A lot of experts expect them to go for a goaltender, though I don't expect that to happen, especially with Ilya Samsonov and Vitek Vanacek's play of late, but the Capitals could definitely use some extra depth at the center position. Moving on to baseball and starting with the Baltimore Orioles, who just wrapped up a 3-game series with the New York Yankees. Starting on Monday, the O's lost to the Yanks 7-0. The Bronx Bombers lived up to their name as Aaron Judge broke the scoreless tie with his solo homer in the 4th inning. After 4 consecutive walks forced home a run to start the bottom of the 5th, Giancarlo Stanton brought everyone else across with his 471-foot towering grand slam. DJ LeMahieu added an RBI single in the 6th inning to summarize the scoring. Orioles starter Jorge Lopez took the loss, being charged with 4 runs after leaving the bases loaded 2 outs into the 5th inning. Baltimore was only able to put together 4 hits after tallying 34 total knocks in the series against Boston. That brought us to Tuesday with the Orioles loss 7-2. Rio Ruiz hit a 2-run homer in the 9th inning to avoid another 7-0 shutout, but still a loss all the same. Dean Kramer was the pitcher of record after giving up 3 runs in only 3 innings pitched. Tyler Wells gave up a run when he took the mound in the 7th inning, and Wade LeBlanc served up a 3-run shot to Aaron Judge after coming out of the bullpen in the 8th to make his first appearance of the season. Fortunately, the Orioles weren't swept by the Yankees as they beat them in Game 3 on Wednesday in the 11th inning 4-3. John Means allowed 1 run in his 4 2/3 innings pitched, but was let off the hook for a decision with Cedric Mullins and Anthony Santander homering in the top of the 4th. The Yankees pulling even in the 8th inning plus a scoreless 9th meant the game would go into extra innings. The teams exchanged runs in the 10th before Baltimore scored again in the 11th inning, and the Orioles won on a walk-off double play as Anthony Santander caught the line out to right and gunned down the runner at home plate for the outfield assist, snapping the Orioles' 12-game losing streak in Yankee Stadium. The Orioles kind of fell back to earth after riding high with their series sweep against Boston, but that's sort of to be expected as the Yankees are just a better team. Boston isn't all that good, plus the Orioles tend to start out their season hotter than they usually finish their season. Next up for the Orioles, they start their first home series of the season as they take on the Boston Red Sox starting today and wrapping up on Sunday. Moving on to the Washington Nationals, and before they were able to take the field, we found out just how serious the extent of their COVID outbreak was, as starting pitchers Patrick Corbin and John Lester, relief pitcher Brad Hand, catchers Yan Gomes and Alex Avila, first baseman Josh Bell, infielders Josh Harrison and Jordy Mercer, and left fielder Kyle Schwarber were all placed on the injured list without citing specific injuries, likely meaning those are the players that tested positive for COVID and the ones who had to quarantine based on close contact. Tipping us off even further that those were the players placed in quarantine was the fact that the Nationals placed relief pitcher Will Harris on the 10-day injured list as well, citing his injury as right hand inflammation. The news for Harris is good though, as the team initially suspected that Harris had a blood clot, so right hand inflammation is definitely less serious than a blood clot. All prayers up to him. The Nationals season got underway on Tuesday with a winning effort, defeating the Atlanta Braves 6-5. Max Scherzer struck out 9 without walking any batters over 6 innings pitched, but he also gave up 4 solo home runs, 2 in the first, 1 in the second, and another in the third. Fortunately, the game was still tied through 3 thanks to Jonathan Lucroy's 2 RBI double in the second and Trey Turner's 2-run homer the following inning. Ronald Acuna Jr. and the Braves retook the lead in the 7th inning just to see Andrew Stevenson tie the game again with an infield single in the 8th inning. Then the moment we waited 5 extra days to see. Juan Soto up at the plate with a chance to send Nats fans home happy. 2 runners on base with a 3-0 count, and it looked like Soto would be intentionally walked. Instead, the league's best hitter was served up a strike, and he didn't disappoint, blasting the ball back to center field for a single and the first walk-off hit of his already illustrious career. That brought us to Wednesday, where the Nationals and Braves played a split doubleheader featuring 2 7-inning games. The Nats had a 4-1 lead after the first inning thanks to another Trey Turner 2-run home run, followed by an RBI single from Starlin Castro and an Andrew Stevenson sacrifice fly. However, starting pitcher Eric Fedde had a shaky outing, giving up 6 runs, 5 earned, over just 1 2/3 innings pitched. Another RBI single from Starlin Castro made the score 6-5 in the second inning, and that's how the score would remain until the final frame. After relinquishing another run in the top of the 7th inning, the Nationals found themselves needing yet another heroic finish, and they nearly got it. Starlin Castro ripped his 3rd hit and RBI of the game, this time a double that brought home Juan Soto. But Will Smith and the Braves played their cards right by intentionally walking Luis Garcia to set up a double play with Andrew Stevenson digging in at the plate, and they got the result they were looking for as Stevenson grounded back to the pitcher. 45 minutes later, we had the rubber match of the series, with Steven Strasburg taking the mound. After pitching all of 5 innings in 2020 before undergoing carpal tunnel surgery, the 2019 World Series MVP looked amazing, striking out 8 batters and only giving up 1 hit over 6 innings pitched. Unfortunately, 6 innings was all he pitched, as he was relieved of his duties despite a pitch count that only read 85. Enter hard-throwing Tanner Rainey, who served up a 2-run shot to pinch hitter Pablo Sandoval, and Washington was swept in the doubleheader 2-0 as Atlanta's Sean Newcomb struck out the side in the bottom of the inning. Despite the 1-2 record to start the season, I think the Nationals looked really good, and that's even considering that they're without a lot of their key players for this season due to the COVID outbreak. So, next up for Washington, they do head on the road for their next series, starting against the Dodgers on Friday and running through Sunday. And lastly, today's news comes out of the world of women in sports, starting first with the Washington football team, who hired Natalia Durantes, making her the first Latina coordinator of football programs in NFL history. I love the move, another historic and very diverse hiring for the Washington football team, and they're making strides after news coming out that their hiring practices in the past hadn't been all that great. And moving on to the Washington Mystics, who unveiled their new Rebel Edition jerseys, which are inspired by the 2017 Women's March, the largest single-day protest in world history. The jerseys are inscribed with the 19th Amendment, which obviously granted women the right to vote, and the stripe you see is the path that a lot of marches take in D.C., going from the Capitol building to the White House. Shall not be denied is a pretty cool motto as the team looks for its 3rd championship appearance in 4 seasons and its 2nd championship in 3 seasons. And other than that, I really love the rose gold colorway of it, and I look forward to seeing it in action as the WNBA kicks off its 25th season. But that is all I have for today's episode, and likely the last episode I do for a little bit. So I want to thank everybody for all their support, and thank you once again for tuning in. God bless.